learned a lot more about me losing than they learned about me winning. And I think if you persevere, you will succeed. And to Dan's point, this is where it really matters. When you're at the level that Dan was at, if you lose the perspective he mentioned, then you're lost. But local officials, whether they're elected or they're appointed, are working closest to the people they serve. And that's where the ASP really resonates. Because all that we stand for, all that we put forward to the public in our platform is all about local government, subsidiarity, bringing the power down to the lowest competent level so that people can address the needs that they have where those needs are. So thank you for seeing that you can make a difference, persevere, you'll succeed, and you know what? The people in your community will succeed as a result. Thank you. So I'm the out-of-towner. I came here from Connecticut. I've been very fortunate to have a number of events that have been put together by Amar and Mike and others because it's been very important to share who I am for you. I've done this in other places in the United States as well. But to give you a little background about myself, I was a blue politician in my earliest years. Like Dan, I grew up in a working class family, and mom and dad were blue. I voted blue, but I lost my faith, unlike Dan, in the blue side of politics way back in the 1980s. I tried the red side, and I was there for a little while as a Reagan Democrat, then a Reagan Republican. And eventually in the 1990s, I just said, I can't do this anymore. And for 20 years plus, I was on an island. I was homeless politically. And I really became frustrated in 2016 because even though I could identify a candidate whom I could support, even if they didn't win, I had somebody to vote for until 2016, and that was not an option in 2016 of the two major party candidates. So I voted third party that year, and I said, I've got to find something that is going to be a suitable alternative for me. And I had an acquaintance in my state who said, just in a conversation, not anything about politics, I expressed the frustration that I had to vote the way I did in 2016. He said, let me tell you about the American Solidarity Party. He introduced me to the party and the platform, and I said to audiences all around, it fit me like a glove. Everything that you were saying, Dustin, everything that you were saying, all of the values that I had on the right, all of the values that I had on the left were harmonized together. And they all fit, and they all complement, right? Because they all come from the natural law, and they all make sense. It's not like somebody has tried to rip that apart and say, we'll take this and you take that, you defend that, we'll defend this. And it doesn't make any sense that way. But when it all comes together, it makes perfect sense, and it's easy to support. I think there's a lot of people in this country, when they become familiar with the ASP, what it stands for, will really appreciate all that it means and why it means what it does. So, I have been a local official on 3 different boards, like Dan, just kind of moving along, and I was at the end of my term and had become involved in the ASP, like Mike said. It's easy once you get to know people to become integral into this organization. First, it's small, but it's very easy to network with people. And a few of the members approached me and said, would you consider putting your name forward to be considered for the presidential nomination of the party? And the time was right for me. I have 9 kids. They're all now out of high school, and I'm near the end of my working years. So I said, this is the best opportunity for me to do this. I'm also at the end of my term. I'm not going to rerun, so I will give this a go. And I'm really excited to be able to represent the party and what it stands for. Like Mike, I haven't ordered my address labels for 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But it's meaningful to represent this party. I realize that I have got the slimmest of chances, but I realize that we need to grow and our system needs change. And I believe that this is the positive change that can happen. So what is my campaign doing to try to bring about that change? I had 3 ambitions. Not, one of them is not to win the White House, but to grow the party in size and in influence, and then to introduce people at the grassroots level to actively participate in local government. That could mean an appointed position, like Lombard discussed. It could mean an elected position. It could also mean just being an engaged citizen. It can mean going to that board, listening to the conversations. If there's opportunity for public expression, to get up and to ask questions or propose positions that you think are being overlooked. And very simply, to remain informed and engaged so that you can be productive wherever you are. Not everyone is called to run for office, but everyone is called to be informed and to support their community in one fashion or another. So that's what I'm trying to do. We need to build from the ground up. The reason that the ASP runs a presidential candidate in the first place is simply to give visibility to the party and to its platform, so that more people will learn about who we are, what we stand for, where success can be found within this party, because there's somebody running in the top seat. The ambition is to just introduce it so that people at the lower level will become involved and we can change politics from the ground up. The biggest challenge that I am facing, the biggest challenge that most candidates who are third-party candidates face, is what's known as ballot access. When you go into the voting booth, you want to be able to see names that are options for you to vote for. And automatically, because of the long success that both Republicans and Democrats have enjoyed, they have what's known as party status in all 50 states. And so their nominees automatically get plugged into all of the slots available on each ballot. Third-party candidates don't always have that, enjoy that option. Some of the third parties that have had more success, like the Libertarians or the Greens, might have various states in which they have that ballot access, not all. The ASP had to work very hard in Amar and Brian Carroll's term just to get 8 states with ballot access. We're hoping that we can double that this time. But the reality is that the states work against you. They put very onerous requirements out in most cases. Some states require upwards of 40,000 signatures in order for a candidate to get on the ballot. And then you're not even listed with a party, you're just an independent candidate. But your name is there as an option. Otherwise, you're asking people to go into the voting booth and to remember your name, and also to do something they seldom do, which is to write and vote. It's a very foreign experience. So our efforts are to try to gain signatures. Now, Amar has already mentioned tonight that he's got a system that he's devised that's going to help raise signatures to get ballot access for people here, including the presidential candidate. I'm going to Wisconsin tomorrow, and I'm going to invite the ASP members in Wisconsin to do something similar, because there's only 2,000 signatures required in Wisconsin. And I think it's really doable with volunteers. Where we can't do it with volunteers, we'll look seriously at doing it with professionals. Professionals are very good, but they don't come free. Volunteers are the easiest way to do it if you can't accomplish it that way. If you have to pay for it, you have it done well, but you don't have it done cheaply. And resources for a campaign like mine do not compare with resources for a campaign like Donald Trump, as you appreciate. But I'm not spending any money on legal. So, the other thing that I'd ask you to do, and Dan was very good at doing this too, is just look at things differently than the way that you normally do. And this is what I invite voters to do. Quite often, people will challenge the third party, or even challenge you if you suggest to them that you're considering a third party. You're wasting your vote. You've got to vote for so-and-so because we have to block so-and-so from getting in. Or we absolutely need so-and-so to win. You've got to vote for him no matter what. I say to you, you're looking at things wrongly if that is the way that you continue to analyze. The state of Illinois. Who's going to win the presidential election?
Peter Sonski.
I wish that were true, but thank you. But seriously, we know Joe Biden is going to win by a landslide in Illinois. Go a little bit to the east of us, and we know that Trump is going to win by a landslide in Indiana. Who is wasting their vote for Donald Trump or Joe Biden if they know going into that election who's going to win in that state? Who's wasting their vote? Every one of you, every one of the people you know has an opportunity to have your voice heard in a distinct way by voting for someone other than one of those two candidates and being a grain of sand on the beach. You can vote for something that you really believe in. And when people look at those tallies the next day, the ASP may not compare in number to the vast numbers that the other candidates will get, but people will not ignore them. And they'll say, what do those people know that I don't know? Why did they have the courage to vote for somebody else? Is there something about that party, that person, that made them sacrifice their vote, waste their vote for an alternate candidate? It's not a wasted vote. A wasted vote is a vote one more than what was needed to get a candidate, the electoral count that is required in the state. Everything more than that is wasted. And there's like 1 million votes wasted here in the state of Illinois. So I invite you, consider that when you go into the voting booth this year, and share that thought with your friends. We know what the outcome is going to be for all intents and purposes. There's maybe 8 or 10 states that we don't know what the outcome is. I'm sorry to say that you're not going to decide the election. You'll make the groundwork, you'll lay the groundwork, and it's going to be Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Florida and Arizona and a couple of others that are going to really tip the balance and decide who becomes president, Georgia. But consider that when you go into the voting booth. And I'm very happy for your attention. I'm very happy for your support. And I ask you, please, build a party and continue to stay strong and vote for your conviction.